Hey there, it's Spencer Hughes with another episode of Hughes from the Heart in our free segment here, all the way up to episode number 7 now. It sounds like the Star Wars movies. It feels like it almost. It's just as exciting and popular. Not quite. Okay, it's nowhere near as popular as Star Wars, but one day I hope it will be. It's called Everyday People. It's a segment we kind of thought up for the podcast to chat with people, just regular, everyday folks like us on what is going on out there in their lives and how they've been affected by coronavirus and their personal lives, their families, their work, relationships, social life, things like that. And we've had a lot of interesting people, and I'm proud to say I've known this lady for a long time. We're both radio colleagues and friends, and Jennifer Steele hosts the Jennifer Steele radio show from 7 to midnight, 7 p.m. to midnight, weekday evenings on K-Hits, which is 101.5, and you can find them at 1015khits.com. And you can look up her bio there, and you can listen to her online and follow her on social media as I do. Jennifer, great to have you.
I'm so happy to be here, Spencer. Over all the years that we've known each other, we haven't gotten to do this quite enough. So I'm really excited to be here today.
Well, thanks so much. You've been a big supporter, and I've been a supporter of yours as well. I don't just say this, you know that, but I'm a big fan of yours and proud to be your friend too. But you're just a great talent on the air, and you're one of the great DJs in an age where unfortunately a lot of stations don't provide for DJs anymore. It's all kind of canned radio, where it's radio in a box, radio in a closet. It's like, it's no different than listening to Spotify, really. At that point, you might as well just listen to an iPad, with Spotify or Apple Music or something, the way some radio stations run. So I'm glad, props to your bosses at K-Hits for still being one of the few stations in certainly Northern California that has live, DJs on the air. That's great.
Yeah, I feel so fortunate to work for my company. It's Results Radio, and they're a smaller, privately owned company, which, you almost have to find that anymore to be able to go back into the older days of radio, we call it, and they've been really awesome about giving us creative freedom, and he really is big on personality driven radio and trying to bring across who we really are. So it's and in a time where radio has changed so much over the last 15 years, it's real hard to find that anymore, to find somebody live. And I think especially now when we're dealing with all of these things in the world, people really enjoy hearing somebody that they're familiar with talk to them about what's going on and what's happening locally. And that's where we win, is we get to be local and live. And, it's just been a really great experience working there.
That's great. That sounds like the station I work at in Shelton, Washington, a small little logging town in Mason County, Washington, which is in the South Sound. And I ran into that station. I looked them up before we even moved here because I thought, I'd kind of gotten out of radio already. And I thought I still have the bug for it. Obviously, I've had it since I was a kid. I don't want to give it up yet. And found this station that's independently run. It's owned by a fiber optics company in Washington State, and it's the only media outlet they own. And what I liked about it is that it's not run by a lot of the big conglomerates that tend to, as you know, run stations into the ground, unfortunately. And I like that idea that it was a non-radio bunch of people running it, and they left it up to the boss and to me, and it's really just a two-person operation. He and I are the two local guys in the morning from 6 to 9. We do the show, and then the rest is kind of syndicated stuff. But it gives us so much freedom, like you have, which is great. It's very rare for people listening to this podcast right now. You have no idea how rare that is today. That used to be the norm in radio. That used to be the way it always was run.
Yeah. But so many people are probably so envious of your position right now because, maybe you have to go to a smaller town to do it, but it's the quality of life is better there, and you're getting to live your dream. So, it's I think at some point you have to look at that and say, yeah, this is what I want to do now,
Yeah. And now it's a matter of, it used to be getting up at 3:45, shaking myself out of bed by 4, getting ready, getting in the car by 4:30, getting to work at 4:50 because it's 20 minutes door to door. Since this whole coronavirus thing, my boss and I, again, we're the only ones pretty much in the whole radio station, but just to play it safe, we'd have a lot of guests. We have a lot of local guests, from the sheriff to the superintendents of the schools to city council members and stuff. We started doing them on the phone anyway, and then we thought, let's just do the show remotely. So sometimes he'll go into the station. I haven't been in the station in 2 or 3 weeks, but it's really great how technology has allowed us to do this. You're doing the same thing, right? You're doing your 7 to midnight show from your home studio?
Yes, and I'm also the production director at K-Hits. hit. So I've been able to work from home. I have all the programs I had at work, most of them on my computer at home. I put commercials together too. So I will put the commercials together and pull the commercials that I need to pull and send them to my boss, who has the software to be able to load it into the station and like normal, So I'm basically doing my normal duties. I like you, I was not too sure how this was going to go from home
Yeah,
because you kind of think, well, there's no way I can do this, but there is. I set up a home studio in my dining room, and my dog walks in and out all day long, and my husband's here, and it's but we're all making it work, and fortunately I have an omnidirectional microphone, so it it doesn't
sure.
pick up a lot of the outside noise.
Yeah, that's a lifesaver. I'm telling you. I have our dog Perry in here in the morning with me. He's in here from like 4:20, 4:30 until the show ends at 9. He's just sleeping at my feet and having nightmares. And
That's great.
basically, like every other listener of mine, I put them to sleep and they have nightmares while they listen.
Yeah.
Now, now, before we get into the whole coronavirus thing, I find this fascinating because I did not remember this, and I didn't know you really when we first kind of worked together. I mean, I knew you, I was a fan of yours, but we hadn't become friends yet. But you were pregnant years ago when you did the show from home, right, with your daughter.
Yes.
But
yes.
technology
Yes,
was so much different then, right? I mean, was it an ISD? I mean, is it the same technology you're using now, or are you using VoIP or ISDN, or how are you doing it now compared to then?
Compared to then, back then, and that was in 1998 when Megan was born, our engineer, Ross DeClaire, who you're familiar with.
Oh, yeah, I love Ross.
Came out to my house. He came out to my house and he set up everything for me. So it was an ISDN line, yes, that I had to have installed. And I was living in Dixon, California at the time. So there was nothing like that out there. They had to dig lines and all kinds of stuff. But, and so I would just dial right in through the ISDN connection. Now, today, I basically, my boss bought me a mixing board and a really good microphone so that I could hook them in, and they hook right into my computer. I mean, it's like a USB into my computer, and I didn't have to program anything. I immediately started working with the Audition program that I used to record into. And for me, I have a little different situation because I will let you in on a little behind the scenes secret. I pre-record my show to be live here in Sacramento every day. So because I'm the production director, I need to be there during the day. And so we pre-record the show. So for me, it's been a matter of, I'm at the leisure of doing that during the day, around doing dishes and feeding my dog and all that kind of stuff. I can sit down and record my show and then listen to it back live when it runs at 7:00.
That is cool. The whole technology of it. I remember I never get bored sharing the story because it's always to different people, I hope. But I remember when I was doing radio in Santa Rosa, I was going through, it might have been going through my divorce or something. I don't know. I was going through a hard patch, and there was a DJ buddy of mine who's still there doing his radio stuff. And I remember driving around town, and it was in Sonoma County, and I would stay over with relatives because the commute was just killing me. I was driving like 4 hours plus every day back and forth to do a 3-hour show. It was crazy. And so I thought, he's on the air right now, and he's bringing me comfort, and it was kind of like classic rock, I think. And I'm like, God, this is cool. I'm just going to drive by the station. I have my card key and everything. I'll pull in and just hang out and maybe have a cup of coffee with him or something and just chat in between, his sets and stuff. So I pull into the parking lot, and there's no car. The station's dark. The studio's pitch black. And I'm like, and I'm in my car listening to him, right? And that was when I first discovered, that's when I first discovered voice tracking. And we won't get any further into that, but you and I both know what that means. And I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated that he was not in there, because there's great comfort in knowing, that the DJ's behind the mic and maybe taking a request and things like that. But so that's cool that we have technology that allows us both to do that. I just want to tell you, by the way, that your videos are so cool. And I remember the old studio setup. And I know this is kind of getting deep in the weeds for people that might not be familiar with it, but anybody who's followed you on social media knows your videos. And I love those clips you would do where you would say, like, 70% of Americans think this is the best thing to have for breakfast or something. I love those, right? I live for those segments.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, they're great. And that studio with all the pictures on the wall and that nice color paint, If you can divulge this, was that at the radio station? Was that your home? Where the heck is that? Because it was such an aesthetically pleasing studio. I couldn't believe it.
That was in our studios off of 160 in Sacramento. We were in the, we actually shared a building with Telemundo. So Telemundo had one side of the whole building and we had the other side of the building. And when we moved into that building, because before that, we were in the old KZAP studios across the street down off of 160 in downtown Sacramento.
Oh, okay.
And so we moved into the Telemundo building, which was, really beautiful. And the room was already red, but they gave me creative license to go in there and just do my thing. I said, hey, do you mind if I decorate the studio? And my boss, Rico, was like, oh, yeah, go ahead. And he had no idea what I had in mind.
No, it looked great.
Thank you. I had all kinds of cool movie memorabilia and, Marilyn Monroe stuff and John Lennon and just all kinds of really cool stuff in there. It was a great studio. And now we've moved again. So we're into a smaller building now where we use part of my studio now for a green screen. So I really didn't get to decorate this one the way I wanted to. But it's still, I appreciate that they did let me because it was a fun place. It was
cool. Now, so you're not off at 160 anymore?
No, we moved. Well, we're down now off of Cal Expo and I-80. So we're in a big building right there on Tribute Road, and it's an even nicer studio than we were in, but it's smaller.
Well, that's cool. Well,
yeah.
Let's get to, I could talk to you about radio forever, and I know the listeners love this kind of talk too because they're big music fans and love radio. But we've talked a little bit already about how coronavirus has affected us in terms of our jobs. Luckily, well, my other job, I had left another job, started a sales job at a car dealership, something I never thought I would ever do, right? 3 days into this new job that promised all sorts of opportunity for my family, better hours, shorter commute, 5 minutes from the radio station. They'd let me go right after the radio show straight to the car lot. Everything was perfect. And then I got laid off 3 days into the job. And that sucks. So luckily, radio is essential, even if car sales are not essential. So that's how this thing's kind of wiped me out a little bit. After 10 in the morning, I'm just kind of driving my family crazy and batty around the house. I've never, I guess the good news, Jennifer, is that I went from being, honestly, including my commutes and 5 hours a day at the radio station, which is my schedule, and then another 8 or 9 hours at my other job. I was gone like 18, no exaggeration, 18, 19 hours a day. I'd come home so tired I wouldn't even eat dinner. I would just plop myself down, say hello to my kids, podcast, and then drop dead asleep, get 4 hours of sleep and start all over again. And now I'll admit to you, if this is what it feels like to be working for yourself or working from home or being able to telecommute, I like it. I like being in my forest all day. I would like to be able to go out to dinner and go to a bar and hang out at a movie theater and things like that. And hopefully that'll happen sooner than later again. Right. But I'm liking this. Maybe my family not so much, but I'm liking being home all day.
Yeah, I'm lucky because I grew up with a dad who was self-employed. So he had an office at home my entire life. And I remember watching him as an example. He would always get up every day, get ready, go into his office, and he was serious about it every day from like 8 to 5, and he put in his time, and we all knew he was working, but it was cool to have him there. And so to me, when I got to come home and start doing this, I kind of had that model in my head. So that's what I do. I know there's some people who walk out in their bunny slippers and, just plop down in front of the microphone. But that's not something I feel comfortable doing. So I get up and I get ready like I'm going to work, and then I come in here and I sit down and I read my email. And unfortunately, like you said, I've still got the job where I can work from home, but I still put in 5 or 6 hours every day, researching my show and doing that kind of stuff. And so I haven't had as much idle time maybe as a lot of people do right now,
So you're not watching Tiger King off the hook then? Or whatever the heck that show is.
No, I'll occasionally drift over to Facebook or YouTube maybe, but for the most part, I'm researching my show and doing what I have to do.
Yeah. Now, California was, and I still have 2 kids in the area in Placer County and in Sacramento County, and they're finishing up kind of their own projects and their own lives and stuff. And our son that's still there was supposed to graduate high school, and just all these weird changes to our lives, things we never thought would be canceled or postponed indefinitely. And I know California, our governor, and again, this isn't getting political, but our governor, for better or for worse, likes to emulate what California is doing. It's like they're watching each other. It's like Governor Inslee and Governor Newsom are like copycats of each other, I guess. But California had one of the earlier shelters in place. And I know for people that don't know, people are listening to this from all over. Sacramento is not part of the San Francisco Bay Area, but the Bay Area really shut down very tightly. How are things
Yeah.
continuing to go in your neck of the woods there in Sacramento, day to day? What is life like? I mean, everything from supermarkets to highways to getting around and stuff.
Yeah, it has been like I like to say it's like a weird movie that we're all in.
Yeah,
It's like this is something you should be watching on TV with a soundtrack. It's like this isn't really happening to us. But I remember when it first started in Wuhan, my colleague Susan coming up to me and saying, "What do you think about this whole, coronavirus thing in Wuhan?" And I was like, well, yeah, it's terrible, but I don't know that it's going to affect us.
yeah, yeah,
And boy, was I wrong. And the way that it happened so quickly, I think, is what freaked everybody out so much, and yeah, all of a sudden we started hearing about New York. And then all of a sudden, the governor's on saying, yeah, we're going to put this stay at home order in place. And we didn't think that meant you really had to stay at home all the time.
yeah,
But it's quickly changed like every day. And so now what they're saying is that we need to wear a face mask when we go outside. I mean, anywhere. And
yeah.
and I heard also today that the grocery stores will be able to refuse service to you if you don't have one on.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, because I did have to go to Walmart for some things the other day, and I suited up. I had my gloves on, and I have a mask, but I didn't wear it in. But everybody was pretty good about staying away from each other. But now they're saying that even that, that it's more or less the wearing the mask is to protect other people, and not so much yourself, but other people from getting it. And if we all do that, I got to believe it's going to help us. And it is, because they've shown, our numbers aren't as bad as New York. So hopefully it is working. But yeah, anywhere you go, the gas station, the Walmart, and we're really not going anywhere. I did have to go to the bank, and that was interesting because they had it marked off in the bank 6 feet apart from where you could stand. And
Yeah,
everyone's got the plexiglass in front of
yeah.
them, and really weird.
Yeah, the post office too. We have a tiny in Grapeview, Washington, a tiny little Mayberry size post office, and they've
How
got
cute.
a little area where you go in, you have the PO boxes and stuff, and then you go into the area where you can talk to the people and interact and buy your stamps and everything. And they're limiting that to 2 people at a time. Like if there were a line of local people in there, it could have like 4, 5, 6 people in there. They're limiting it to a couple, I think, and they have the plexiglass that they have kind of screwed into the wall above, which is a good idea. I've noticed a lot of places are doing that. The pharmacy at the Fred Meyer here does that as well, just kind of that plexiglass shield.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I saw a guy at a grocery outlet. This was classic. And if it were, I almost took a selfie with him, and I thought, okay, I don't want to appear to be insensitive here and stuff. But this guy was so cool. He looked like something out of a combination of Doctor Who and like a sci-fi movie, fighter pilot or something. He had on this gas mask that I was like, I gotta have that thing. I gotta, and I told the guy, I go, hey man, that's a cool mask. And he said, yeah.
Yeah.
It does the job. He goes, it makes people feel better, like, in terms of like me not breathing on him. He goes, and if I'm going to be wearing a mask all freaking day, I want it to look stylish. So he had on this like World War III gas mask that took over his whole face. And I've been seeing some of those on sale on Amazon. I know K-Hits is such a big community station. They're a fun FM greatest hits station, and you guys do a lot of stuff out there, kind of kissing babies, shaking hands, getting out there, doing events. That's obviously had to come to a stop, I would imagine, but there's probably all sorts of festivals that if this thing wraps up, you guys will still be doing for the summer. Hopefully this won't go into the summer months, but how has it affected kind of your social life in and out of the station, just like hanging out? And is it hard? Do you have relatives that you can't really hang out with as much and not seeing friends?
Yeah, station wise, the first thing we started doing was not allowing people to come to the station to pick up prizes and stuff. We decided that we would mail those to the people, and then we did away with prizes altogether for right now because it's just too much of a hassle. And so there's that. Then we had all of these concerts scheduled. I mean, once a month, all the way through, sometimes twice a month, all the way through the summer. We had to cancel most of those. The one thing we're hanging on to right now is we do a big show called Rewind Fest, which is a big 80s bonanza.
Oh, yeah.
And we do that every September, every Labor Day weekend. So we're still having high hopes for that, hopefully.
Oh
And
God,
hopefully it'll
yeah.
be at a time when people are really ready to go do something, you know. So so there's that. We haven't been able to do anything social with work. We've been conference calling each other every week so that the staff can stay kind of, you know, connected. So I think that's kind of cool. We've been using Zoom to do that. And then my family lives pretty close by. And, you know, my dad has been in and out of the hospital recently with some
Yeah.
issues. And yeah, he had to go back into the hospital just before all of this got really crazy
Oh
about a week and
man.
a half ago. And yeah, he went in, and my mom was the only one allowed to go in at first. And then they said no visitors at all were allowed to come in. So he was in the hospital when none of us could go see him. So thank God for FaceTime, because that's the
Yeah.
one way I've been staying connected to my family. And my daughter's local, but you know, you just can't go see them. And I try to impress upon them, because I'm not sure that the younger generation, some of them I think take it real seriously, but some of them I have seen not take it very seriously. And you know, I keep trying to tell her, you got to do it. You got to stay away from people. You got to wash your hands, you know. And it's real weird to see your kid not be able to just run up to her and hug her, you know.
Yeah, we had some people come out to, you know what I'm noticing, and I don't know how it is there. I would imagine the community there is strong as well. I love the Sacramento people and just how close-knit
Yeah.
people were. But what I'm noticing is, aside from the pushing and shoving that you still see in some of the stores for toilet paper, which I won't even get into because it gets me too angry,
I know.
but just kind of the people posting, like we helped this one lady out, and it really is incredible, isn't it, that something as innocuous as a can of Lysol you can get for like $4 at the store is such a commodity that this poor lady, she had elderly parents, and the parents were trying to stay safe and everything, and they ran out of Lysol, and she posted on Facebook, one of the community sites, you know, does anyone have any Lysol? And my wife Sarah saw that, and we got in touch with her. Long story short, she drove out like 10 minutes to get to us where she lived, drove up the road where we live. I had my gloves on, she had her gloves on. We just kind of handed it passing in the car, and it was just kind of a neat moment. And I'm noticing that I've had friends that have shared toilet paper. We finally were able to get it on Amazon, thank God. But in the beginning, it was kind of precarious there.
Oh, good.
But isn't it funny how having a friend that's willing to give you a roll of toilet paper, that's a sign of a good friend these days?
It really is. I mean, and who would ever have thought that that would be the case? I can't believe how crazy people are with the toilet paper, especially. And I happened to walk into, this was about maybe 3 weeks ago. I happened to go into Walmart right as they were bringing out a huge pallet full of
Yeah.
toilet paper. And I was like one of the first people to go up to it, you know, and I couldn't believe my luck. Like, I was so excited to see the toilet paper, you know.
Isn't it crazy? It makes us, I think
So,
this
yeah.
whole thing's going to make us appreciate the little things. Do you think that's what's happening? I mean, are you seeing that in your own life, that little things you took for granted, like having drinks with a friend or going to a restaurant anytime you wanted, or sporting events, concerts, like you said, because concerts are so big in your world too. These little things are going to mean a whole lot when we're able to do them again, I think.
I agree. And I know that you've been a big proponent of minimalism and trying to, you know, free up your life of things that aren't necessary. I think this is a great time for people to do that. I mean, you realize what you can do without. You realize what you can make work. I think you realize how spoiled we were
Yeah.
in being able to get anything we wanted. And I think it is going to change society, hopefully, maybe for the better. I think people are reconnecting with people now that they haven't in a while, you know, reaching out to people. And like you said, it's bringing out the better side in some people, as far as sharing with somebody who needs something, or getting something for someone who can't go get it, you know. Or I think it's definitely, hopefully, going to bring out the best in people. I know we'll all be tired of it by the time it's over, but I hope we don't forget those feelings, the niceness and the caring, you know, about your neighbors and the elderly. And, I think that's why your podcast is so important. And I try to share that on my pages whenever I can.
I appreciate it.
Positivity podcast, because I just think that it is important for people to take a moment and hear something positive after everything is so serious with what we're dealing with in this world right now. And that's what we try to do on our show too, is be positive and focus on the good stories of what's happening right now. And so people don't forget that that's also going on, you know.
Yeah, we need that. I mean, we need the levity of it. We need people telling us it's going to be okay because it will be. I mean, I get so resentful when people just focus, like the media seems hell-bent on just the total numbers. Like they tell you every time somebody has it, like a new case, a new case, a new case. And I put something up that just kind of came to me in a blur, and I posted it on my Facebook, and I said, the media says 100 animals escaped from the zoo, right? And then my immediate question is, are we talking lions, tigers, and bears? Or are we talking about penguins, flamingos, and, and prairie dogs? I mean, I want to know what, telling me that there's a million cases of this means nothing if 99% of the people recover. Right. I mean, it's kind of a silly thing that the media keeps doing, that they want to put it out there every time somebody catches this, and they don't ever do it with anything else. I mean, they don't ever do it with anything else.
No, that's true. It's been interesting to watch the numbers go up. They're very careful to do that here every day. They talk about the numbers that have gone up and the numbers of, people who have died. And albeit it's less than other places, but it's still kind of shaking, to see. I think I would like to see, too, that broken down into bigger numbers and what that really means to us. Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, our county for a while, Mason County, is one of the more rural counties in Western Washington, and a lot of properties and kind of farmers and hunters and things like that. And for a while, when King County, which is the Seattle, Kirkland area and stuff, that was the epicenter for Washington. I mean, that elderly care acute facility, that's where... Right. In the beginning, it was like 99% of all the deaths in Washington were in that one elderly care place. I mean, it was scary that it was spreading that fast within that place. But Mason County held out for the longest time. For weeks and weeks, we had 0 cases, and then it was the first one, and everyone's kind of like, oh boy. Mm-hmm. And then it was the second. I think we're up to like 16 now. But and luckily, we have some good county commissioners here that point out on their Facebook pages, not a single one has required hospitalization. That's huge. Even the elderly ones, there's several elderly out of that 16. Not one of them had to even go to the hospital. They have it. They recovered at home. They quarantined themselves, and every single one has recovered nicely. And that's the story that kind of, it's almost like the mainstream media turns off the cameras and the microphones at that point. Like they leave you hanging, in other words. They want you to know how many county cases you have, but not that 99.9% of people probably never needed a hospital bed.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like the news in general, thrives on the sensationalization. Yeah, I guess is the word.
Sure.
Of things like crises, and so yes, they're a service to us. We need them. We need to know what's going on in our world, but they are like, so I don't want to say happy, but they're into the continuing coverage, and so it is sad because we would like to hear more of the positive numbers. And you're right, we don't hear any of it, really.
Well, Jennifer, I want you to come on with me again one of these days, and we could talk about a whole bunch of other things, I'm sure. And I want people to check you out on 1015khits.com. And they can find your bio on there, and they can link directly to your Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and they can read your blog, which I enjoy all the time. And they can listen to you 7 p.m. to midnight Pacific time on 101.5 K-Hits locally throughout the Sacramento area. And thanks to the internet, they can listen from anywhere on earth with a good internet connection on 1015khits.com. Do you guys have an app, too? You have an app, right?
We do. Yeah, we're in the App Store and then also on Google Play, and all the smart speakers, too. You can just ask for 1015 K-Hits, and they'll pull us up on your smart speaker as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Here out in the woods, sometimes we'll tell Alexa something, and Alexa will say, like, put on K-Hits, and she'll say, there are no Thai restaurants anywhere in your area. And I'm like, will you just shut up and just never mind?
That's funny.
Well, I enjoy talking with you.
Spencer. Yeah, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And
well, you're fantastic.
I've been a big fan of yours for a long time.
Well, likewise, and you do a great job out there, and you're bringing joy to a lot of people every night, as you know, and keep up the good work. And please, I know your bosses don't know me really from Adam, but tell them that the Spencer guy said to please keep the format on the air and keep chugging away and keep going, because we need stations like K-Hits.
They do know who you are, and I will tell them that.
Well, I appreciate it. It's from all my the pictures on the post office walls, probably still in Sacramento County. But,
that must be it.
Well, thanks, Jennifer. Great talking with you. And people, again, can see you on 1015khits.com.
Thank you, Spencer. Always a pleasure.
I'm Spencer Hughes, and that was episode 7 of Everyday People right here on Hughes from the Heart. If you liked what you heard and you'd like to hear more and you'd like to support the podcast, please sign up today at patreon.com/Spencer Hughes. In the meantime, enjoy the free episodes on Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and more.